Welcome everyone to this week's Recruitment FDs partner webinar. We're here today with Numarqe, who are our corporate credit card and working capital partner. So Numarqe have been recommended to us by a couple of our members, one of which will be joining us here today. I've spent quite a lot of time with Nick and his team over the last couple of months, and I've been really impressed with not only their innovative solution, but also their commitment to the recruitment industry. And I have no doubt that their level of customer service and customer care that you'll get from Numarqe is incomparable to what you get from a large corporate alternative. So I'm really excited, and I'm really happy that we're helping them build a brand in the recruitment sector, and hoping this will be a long-term partnership between our companies. So we've got a 30-minute presentation today, which will include a demo of the platform, a Q&A, and a case study from one of our members. So with no further ado, let me hand over to Nick and James to take you through the presentation. Nick.
Thank you so much, Keith. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming to the presentation today. Really appreciate you guys taking the time and kind of taking the opportunity to look at what we can offer. It'd be interesting to understand also later on in the call what kind of piqued your interest and how we could potentially help you. But really, in short, we help companies manage their working capital more efficiently, and we work with companies that are growing. Quite selective on who we work with, but really our kind of approach is to help you have better controls, more flexibility, and also a lot of visibility in rolling out a card program. What I'll do is I'll quickly hand over to James. He's my co-founder and CEO. We've got Carl, our CTO, in the background, who I think might show his face later on, but I don't really know how much he'll be involved in this one today. But James, why don't you give a quick introduction about how come we started Numarqe, and then we can continue on with the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time. Just wanted to give a quick intro to myself. As Nick says, I'm CEO. I'm actually a former CFO, did that for about 10 years in financial trading companies. And Numarqe really is a culmination of pain I suffered with incumbent banks and incumbent credit card providers while I was CFO, trying to manage corporate spend globally with real-time data and insights, not being there for me to control who was doing what, where, when, why, and how. So I suffered with Amex and Barclaycard and Lloyds as our primary banking providers in different jurisdictions, and I never could get meaningful credit lines for our cards. So invariably, staff would be spending on their own personal cards and doing expense claims. I dealt with very analog platforms. I typically could only get one currency to spend in, so we had a lot of FX charges for overseas spend in the wrong currency versus the denomination of the cards we had. I had to deal with paper forms, administration. Was very lousy and time consuming. I was actually the only person that could speak to Barclaycard on any issue, even low level support. So that typically drew my time away from where it should be. We didn't really get any customer support of note, actually. That was a real weakness I saw. And then what overall struck out to me, that banks were just pulling away from unsecured credit in general, and the card products were lousy. And this was really an opportunity I thought should be solved. And Numarqe is the attempt and the plan to grow into this space and take market share from these players with a much more digitized all-in-one solution that provides credit in multi-currency, allows you to spend anywhere in the world reliably and across all your entities. So it's a multi-entity product, and also seamlessly integrate with your accounting systems and really reduce that heavy lifting that your finance team are no doubt involved with in terms of reconciling, chasing paper invoices and whatever it may be. So we've been going about 2 years now. We've had some really good growth to start. We think recruitment is a sector that's very interesting to us, and we've had good traction to date with these 4 companies you see on the slide, and hopefully we can impress you with what we can show you and help to solve any pain you may have suffered as well. So no further ado, I'll pass over to Nick, who can take you on a quick demo.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll quickly just talk a little bit about the last year. So I think 2023 was quite a tough year for recruitment firms. I'd say 8 out of 10 CFOs generally that we've spoken to across multiple industries, but particularly in recruitment, have said that 2023 was a really tough year in terms of everyone had very bullish forecasts, and everyone was thinking it was going to be very much similar to kind of the 2020-22 era, where everything was really all going very well and all boats on a rising tide. And so obviously 2024 has kind of created a very different approach. I think everyone is a bit more cautious. Economic kind of uncertainties are out there, and obviously capital is quite expensive with interest rates having gone up. So I presume that, you know, a lot of you sitting here today would have probably had the same experience. I know Richard, when we spoke a couple months ago, had a very interesting view as to how 2024 was, and one of them was really to kind of focus on being very cautious, but still very positive in terms of what can happen this year. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the incumbents. Most of you will notice these logos that you see here. The truth is, for 2024, with things being so uncertain, unfortunately, existing kind of incumbents really don't support having the ability to have some sort of flexibility, as well as good controls and or visibility on rolling out a card program across an entire organization, not only nationally, but also internationally across global entities. And we find that very often these kind of incumbents are very clunky. They've got bad UI. They're not very transparent in their fee structure. And ultimately, what we found out is that a lot of these large organizations, banks, really just have credit cards as a bit of an add-on feature to their customers. It's not really something that they focus on, which then obviously creates even more problems. Whereas you then, as a CFO, an FD, managing a finance team, and then, you know, monitoring a global operation, you don't have any oversight on spend. You don't have really any insight to kind of live transaction data. I'm sure some of you have experienced where you're then sharing cards in between each other. You know, somebody comes over to your desk and says, "Can I borrow your credit card? I need to make this payment." You don't have enough controls, so then you're worried that people might overspend. You're not able to then reconcile that correctly at the end of the month. Receipts don't get submitted, and then obviously recouping VAT is a big challenge for many organizations. What you will find is that at the moment out there, there's a lot of companies working in the expense management space that are really trying to solve that problem, which is spend management. But what they're not solving really is the working capital element. And so that's what we've ultimately done here. We've provided a solution, which is a working capital credit platform to be able to support you guys in your needs to operate on a global scale, and to really make your life a lot easier, and ideally reduce the headaches that you have at the end of month when closing your books, provide you more controls in multiple options, and then also providing you working capital that you can get in multiple currencies. Currently, we have three main ones: US dollars, euros, and GBP. Everything is completely unsecured. We can give fairly high flexible limits. But what we'll do is we'll show a little bit more in the actual demo itself as to how this looks, rather than me rambling on. But what it allows you to do, it will allow you to really manage your team a lot more effectively with virtual cards, with physical cards, onboarding users very quickly internationally, no more lengthy paper forms, as James said, or additional credit checks on individuals. You can have everything centrally set up in the UK, and you can onboard your team members in the US, in Asia, anywhere in Europe. It's all there for you really at your fingertips. You also have the ability to have a lot more transparency in managing your subscriptions, kind of understanding where there's subscription creep. You get live notifications as and when spend happens, which then also will prompt your team members to upload receipts as and when they're on the go and not in the office. And then one of our favorites, also the spend analytics, so that you can spend a bit more time kind of diving more deeply into really seeing where are the issues, where am I spending too much, where are things even potentially fraudulent. These things do happen. And so it allows you just a bit more control and a bit more oversight. That then coupled with a kind of bi-directional accounting integrations. So what we offer there is we are able to work with you on various large accounting platforms. The Xeros, Sage is going to be live very shortly, and then we're working on NetSuite, SAP, and a few others, which ultimately will then integrate into the platform and allow you to close your books a lot more quickly. So without further ado, I think what I'll do is I'll start the demo now. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, please let me know now, so then I can actually see if I can answer them as we're doing our demonstration and showing you the platform. Can everybody see my screen okay? Okay. So here we have the Numarqe dashboard. So what you will see here is just an overview of everything that is going on the platform. Now we're going to show you our account. This is the one that we use on a day-to-day basis. So this is live data that is available to you. So you see here, you've got a credit limit of 100,000. You can see also how much credit is remaining. You also have the ability here then to create sub-accounts. Now sub-accounts for us are the ability where you can create different currency buckets. And once you've created those currency buckets, so you could have X amount in GBP, X amount in euros, and in US dollars, that will then allow you to create subsequently cards in those specific currencies, and you can then share those with your teams internationally. You also have some very high level overview here of kind of some basic statistics in terms of where you've spent this month, top spending users, any cards that you've got there, as well as recent transactions that are available for you. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the cards dashboard. Now the cards dashboard is really your kind of your overview of all the cards that you've got in circulation on your account. You can then also see how much you've allocated in the different currencies to different cards. You can also see their utilizations, the limit that they have, how much credit is actually remaining. You then have the ability to draw down on that into different users. You can show active cards, the type of cards that you have. So you can see here we've got physical, virtual, as well as active cards here in general. Adding cards is very easy as well. Every card that is created is a virtual card at first. It's really very simple. And then you have also the ability to create physical cards subsequently of that as well as something that is available to you. So let me quickly just jump into one of the cards here so that you can just see. We're going to use James's account card to give you just a quick oversight as to what a card's details page looks like. So here you will see James's card. You can see that he's got a 20K limit. He's got a balance of 12,800 on the card at the moment. You see that he's got all of his transactions here. Through the integration that we have with Xero, we're able to very quickly allocate and reconcile with the appropriate receipt for all the different transactions. And I'll jump onto that in a minute. You also have the ability here to have various controls. You can change the credit limits. You can also do various things around allowing you just a bit more flexibility in how you want to allocate that credit. Now, what you see at the moment is our entire platform is MFA compliant. So that allows you to just make sure that it is actually you who's making these changes if you're not at your desktop. So that way you can always see that you're the actual person who's about to see sensitive data. So here you'll see that there's a credit limit there. You can have the ability to make quick selection changes. You can also change the credit limit on the go, as well as apply a maximum single transaction limit if that is necessary. That way you have a lot more control in the way team members are spending if you don't want them to spend over a certain amount on a per transaction basis. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to click on this here. So this is a London Overground transaction. So James was on the go. He went to a meeting. He was traveling, so he did the transaction. He then on the go was able to categorize the transaction based on the accounting category with the customized ledger that we have integrated with the platform. He's put some notes there. He's uploaded the receipt as well, saved the changes, and that will automatically flow into our Xero platform so that we have complete oversight at any point in time on the transaction, and it makes it much easier for us to document with all the receipts that we have.
We actually pulled back from Xero's chart of accounts. So the chart of accounts that's in Numarqe is exactly the same as in Xero. So when you're coding, you're not having to code it once in Xero, once in Numarqe, and then once in Xero. It syncs automatically. Correct.
So this here's your overarching kind of overview that you have of all the transactions on the account. So this will show you the different currencies where you've spent, how much you've allocated to different cards, how much is allocated to your different sub-accounts and different currencies. You then also have the ability here to filter down onto different cards. You can also filter on the individuals, and you can see that all the transactions across the entire organization are available here for you to review. So next section here is the members. So adding members to the platform is really easy. We don't require any additional, let's say, credit checks on individuals or anything like that. All we ask for you to do is provide their email address, their name, the position that they hold within the company. Then we have two types of roles. One, which is a card user role. That is the role that you ultimately are just given a card. You can only see your transactions and anything that is related to your card. If you have an admin role, then you have an over-encompassing role to be able to do anything about allocating credit, adding and removing users, freezing, deactivating cards. It's all there for you. So to get someone onto the platform probably can take anything between 2 to 3 minutes, and to have somebody with a virtual card on the go, probably I think the fastest we've ever done it was 5 minutes. Cards and ultimately can also be done and shared as a physical version. Those can be done in the new card section, and that is, again, that takes about anything between 3 and 5 working days, depending on where where the user is based. So this is a really quick introduction, I think, to the platform. Are there any specific questions that you have? I don't want to just feature dump on you. So if you have anything that is of particular interest or things that might have come up that you want to talk about, please let us know now.
I had a quick question. I did put it in the chat, but we've got multiple. Sorry, we've got multiple instances of zero. So is there a way that we can have different cards feeding into different entities in those zero entities, or is it just one contract with one main group company?
No, we offer multi-entity support. So you can have ultimately multiple versions of the platform where you can then change in between the different entities. I'll give you an example. Orbis, I think, is also a member of a Recruitment FD. We have several entities that we work with, so she has access to different entities and is able to access them right here from the platform. So that way, everything is kept on separate balance sheets.
Lovely, thank you.
So it's effectively a one-to-one mapping. You've got one entity in Numarqe that maps into one zero entity.
Is there any more questions?
I'd just like to touch on credit.
Yeah, please,
So one of the rationale for driving this business forward is the lack of unsecured credit available in the market, and just want to touch on the fact that how can we offer more credit than an incumbent bank, you might ask yourself, and a lot of it is now very technologically driven. So we can access a lot of data now, much more so than historically, in near to real time about a company from various sources. And we've built a credit engine proprietary to us, which is using machine learning techniques to essentially learn about the behavior of a customer and score it across a number of features, and then ultimately predict how credit worthy we think that customer will be today and future. And obviously this is an evolving thing, and a lot of different data sets, and we learn which data is more relevant than others, and we cross-reference this to industry benchmarks that we see of other companies in other sectors. But ultimately the objective is to have a much more near to real-time view of the creditworthiness of a company and understand their working capital cycle better. So we're not just looking at a one-time report and saying and making a credit decision now and not really anticipating how your company's growing and how your company's operating in its working capital cycle unique to it. And we think this technology's advanced. We're developing it all the time, but we think this is a real powerful edge to enable us to actually allocate much more robust, meaningful credit lines to customers, and also flexibly do that. So you may not need it all the time, but you may need it in certain seasonality or ad hoc periods. And so this is kind of the power behind the Numarqe platform that you don't see in this demo.
Great. I see that Richard's joined. Hi, Richard. So we're obviously getting, I'd say, quite close on time here. Maybe, Richard, it would be great for you just to talk a little bit about how you're using the Numarqe platform. If you'd like, I can even share my screen during that time. It's entirely up to you. And if we could hear a little bit from you, and maybe then if there's any more questions that come up, then we can answer them.
Yep, sure. So, I mean, first we were kind of in the position that James illustrated. We had HSBC as our legacy card provider, paper statements, having to make lengthy phone calls every time there was some kind of fraud transaction, no real-time visibility, very difficult to roll cards out around the business. So we'd kind of reached the end of the road with them, and one of the attractions of Numarqe was just the flexibility and the speed of being able to roll something out around the business. To quote an example that I had yesterday, we've got an incentive trip running on Friday. Somebody who was supposed to be dealing with the payment has pulled out. We were able to, within 15 minutes, I can't quite do it in 5, but we set somebody up and added a new card and moved credit around to enable somebody else who's on that trip to be able to deal with that issue, and they've got a virtual card in their wallet pretty much within 15 minutes of me starting that process. So the flexibility is great, and being able to keep an eye. We predominantly use the card. We kind of roll it out for senior people to use for sort of travel and entertaining, and then office expenses and things like that go through the card, and I can keep an eye on mundane stuff like how much we're spending on fruit and office supplies and all of that kind of stuff real time. And another attraction was we had just set up a business in the US that was newly incorporated, had no credit record over there, and we were encountering problems with our director over there. Just doing simple stuff like kitting out the office, buying new laptops. With Numarqe, we were able to leverage our UK business performance to secure credit in US dollars to enable David, our director in New York, to have a card with a good credit limit to be able to do whatever he needs to do using a Numarqe card, which we were starting to explore things like prepaid cards and trying to negotiate supplier terms with people who we shouldn't really be having to do that for. So Numarqe kind of fixed that issue for us, and the probably third thing I'd like to highlight, all of the stuff around the platform is very intuitive, and has made the team's life easier. But the working capital element, we have a good sized contract book where the business is funded through an invoice finance facility, and we're a monthly VAT payer, so we're able to pay our monthly HMRC VAT payments at the end of a month through the Numarqe card, and then not actually have to settle that for another 28 days towards the end of the next month. So given the cost of capital at the moment, then that's a fairly chunky payment that we're effectively deferring by a month throughout the course of the year, and the saving on invoice financing charges there is significantly higher than the fees we're paying for Numarqe, and we're paying the fees and getting a much superior product as well. So that working capital element is something that we'd probably be exploring as much as we possibly can going forwards, because it's really helpful in especially with more challenging conditions in the last year or so.
Thank you, Richard. That's kind of you for that feedback. James, did you want to maybe just for us to wrap up? I think we've got 5 minutes left. Keith, is that correct? Maybe James, you can just talk about some of the things that we've got on our roadmap that we're looking at getting done for this year, and how we can continue supporting recruitment firms over the next it's almost May already, so it's not 12 months, the year's almost halfway done.
Yeah, so touching on the working capital point actually that Richard raised, we're actually building in a new credit line to ourselves, because obviously we're borrowing to be able to lend, with a new mechanism which should enable us to extend credit further down the maturity curve, so to speak. So instead of being necessarily 30 days, we'll be able to offer credit even up to 90 days. Obviously, there's a risk reward of that, and the pricing may be more expensive going 90 days, but it's still going to be much, much cheaper than what the incumbents can do. So that's one big thing we're looking at doing, is how do we extend our payment terms for the customers to be even more flexible to your working capital cycle. The other thing we're doing is we're looking for more flexibility in the way you pay us back. So currently, if you have 3 balances in 3 different currencies, you've got to settle those in full in the respective underlying currencies. What we're building is a feature that allows us to give you essentially a quote price on any currency you want to repay us in. So you may not want to settle your dollars in dollars, you could settle them in pounds for convenience. So we'll give you a quote to do that. Just to simplify your administration on your payment cycle. And you know, again, you don't have to worry about FX risk so much when you know you can pay in a currency and pay back in the currency you like. So that's something it's pretty much built. We're kind of testing the mechanics of it and the quoting of the prices, obviously relevant to the spot and forward markets and FX. As we've got Xero live as a key integration, we're looking at rolling out Sage very, very soon. Hopefully you can hear me. Apparently my internet is unstable according to this message that's just popped up. So Sage is the next one. We've got NetSuite on the horizon, and then Dynamics and SAP furthermore after those ones. Again, it's feedback driven. So the more customers that want a certain accounting package, the more likely we are to focus on that. But as you know, Sage, NetSuite, and Xero seems to be a good chunk of most mid-sized companies that we're in discussions with. And then, you know, data analytics, we always want to improve that more and give you actually insights as well as just data. We actually have a module running for us now, which we're kind of using for our own credit decisioning that you don't see, but we actually could roll that out quite easily. It's a Windows-based module. You have drop-down selects and filters on all types of spend categories, and then you cut the data any way you want it in a kind of graphical, user-friendly manner. Again, feedback driven. If people start shouting they want it, then we can push that up the queue in terms of prioritization. But I think that's going to be really interesting for our customers. Anything else I've missed? More currencies. We always want more currencies. We've done the 3 base ones. We have some blockers from the banking partners that we work with. So we were hoping to roll out the Asia currencies this year. Probably be next year now, but we might be able to get some of the other currencies in sort of the non-EU. I don't know how to term it anymore, but the Nordics who aren't in the EU, the Swiss franc, those kind of currencies, we're hoping to add on as well. I think they're the main things, right, Nick?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. All right, guys, that's 1:45. Thanks very much, James, Nick, and Richard. That was really informative. Really enjoyed that. We are out of time, guys, so I think if you have got questions, then just get in touch with Nick or James. We'll be sending an email around with their contact details and the recording of this webinar. So, just get in touch with them and have a one-on-one if you have any further questions. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time, everyone. Thanks, Nick, James, and Richard, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.